ways to determine if something is a cult. The Boyd scale. So there's 10 factors. Each one of these factors you would rate on a scale of 1 to 10. And I have this linked below. Also, the place that I was reading information from before about the sociopathic tendencies of cult leaders, that's in the link below in the YouTube video. For anyone watching on TikTok, it's over on YouTube. This Boyd scale is linked below, and also the bite model. We're not going to get super into the bite model because it's really long, but we're going to dabble, okay? So for the Boyd scale, this is the one that I like. This is the method that I really enjoy to look at. This is why, too, when people say Trump is a cult, there's some tendencies, but it wouldn't really rank all the way. Or they say this person on social media is a cult, but the person doesn't really withhold information and make people do things to get that information. They just disagree, and people are acting erratically about things. But this is why the Boyd scale is really important, because you'll be able to determine for yourself if something is a cult. Okay, factor 1, information control. Number 1. To what degree are followers not allowed to read materials not regarded as group scriptures, text, or literature? Is it all right for you to read and study materials outside of your group? To what degree? Now, if you're not allowed to read anything that is not from the group leader, that's a 10. Now, if the information is you need to come to this person for the information and there's nowhere else you can get it, but you're allowed to engage in other things, that might be a 5. That's for you to decide. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Okay. Factor 2, devotion to the leader. To what degree does the group encourage love and devotion to the leader of this group? Does everybody appear to worship this person? And there's a level. Okay. Does everyone think like, oh my God, what would we do without you? You're the one who gave us these skills. You're the one who granted us with this information. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know myself. And they get the other people to be devoted as well. It's probably going to be a 10 on that one. If it's someone like, oh, everybody really likes that person, but is it love and devotion because they like the person, but that person is not really like encouraging that behavior? It just kind of is like, say, like, you know, Beyonce. Like, I wouldn't say Beyonce is a cult, even though there's a lot of love and devotion. You know, she's not, you know, closing it off and making those people devote her. You know, they like her because she's got the it factor, you know? So with that one, who is the leader? If they defy the leader or do they make this person a savior figure? Does this leader claim to be a conduit or messenger or a prophet of the true leader? Does this person claim to have information that they're receiving somehow that you don't have access to? Okay. Factor 3, dependence. To what degree are the followers' behavior specified and directed by group doctrine and leader commandments so that this guides followers' decisions? How much has your faith influenced your choices? Do you do the same things that you did before you joined the group, or have you changed your behavior radically? Have you had to change your behavior radically to be involved in this? Have you had to change yourself to be a part of this group? Do you find yourself losing old parts of yourself? Are you going to rate that 1 to 10? Okay. Factor 4, coercion. To what degree are followers manipulated to enter the group or to remain in the group by instilling fear, shame, or guilt? Was there any humiliation or public embarrassment or threats or emotional blackmail? Are other members of your group or leader or your leader ever make you afraid or shame or embarrass you if you voice an opinion that they don't agree with? If you ever thought of leaving the group, have other group members or the leader pressured you to stay? Have they ever threatened you with fearful consequences if you leave? Now, fearful consequences, 10. Now, other types of manipulation and coercion, maybe that's a 5 or a 6. Depends. That's for you to decide. You know, if you try to leave and then that person goes back to what we talked about earlier, emotional manipulation, Maybe you try to leave and that person romanticizes you back in, seduces you back in. I don't know, not quite a 1 or a 0. All right. Factor 5, mystification. To what degree do followers learn a special language or interpretation of symbols that creates an alternate mindset, their view of reality? Do you have to learn a whole new set of ideas to understand this faith? Does your leader interrupt your scripture in a way that is different but makes more sense to you now? So, like, maybe you knew these things, but the way that they're presenting them is now interpreted differently. You know, this happens a lot with the Christian cults. They'll take from the Bible, but their interpretation of the Bible is very different. Maybe in our spiritual space, someone will take information about aliens or about consciousness and change what it means when you're, in a private setting, in this group setting with them. Okay. Factor 6, dissociation. To what degree are followers asked to remain in an altered state of awareness outside of their grounded state of awareness, affecting their ability to function normally in their personalities? How much of the time are you asked to remain in union with your spiritual essence? Are you asked to continually meditate or pray? Of course, meditating is not a bad thing. Praying is not a bad thing. But if most of your interactions or things that are with this person involve you being in that altered state when you're in a hypnotic state, or, if 90% of the things that you see of them are always hypnotic, are always meditation, maybe that's a little higher. Okay. Identification, factor 7. To what degree do followers identify themselves with an element of the subconscious mind, the spirit, the ensouling entity, or the nucleus of an identity? That got a little intense there. And detach from the identification of their ego and self. Do you think of yourself as being your human self or personality, or as a spiritual essence now that you've become a member of this group? After you've become a member of this group, are you no longer seeing yourself as the human self? Now, are you only seeing yourself as this alternate version of yourself? Now, this is where things get tricky in these last 3 parts, because a lot of spiritual practices do believe this that are not cults, because there's no group. You read these in books by yourself, or someone could teach you that, but they're not guiding you to do it, So there does need to be an element of a private group that is regularly meeting, because many of us, who believe in the starseed stuff, do believe that there is an element of ourself that is our human self and an element of ourself that is our non-human self. However, if you're a part of a group that continuously keeps you in the meditative state, like factor 6, and then factor 7, where you no longer are starting to identify with your human self, this might be a cult. Okay. So see, we're ranking each of these factors from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. And at the end, I'll let you know what the magic number is where shit starts being a cult, okay? Factor 8, isolation. To what degree does the group cut off followers from relating to family and friends outside of the group and limit contact with society outside of the group? Do you have regular contact with your family and friends that you had before you joined the group? Does the group ask you to cut ties with your family or friends because they are worldly or deluded, or they don't agree with the beliefs? Or do they encourage you to not hang out with people that aren't aligned with the beliefs? See, now these things is also what happens naturally in your spiritual journey on your own without a leader. Sometimes you might start believing in certain things and then not relating to some of your friends. That could be normal. If it's encouraged by someone, maybe that's not. That's each person to decide. Scale 1 to 10. Factor 9, cognitive restructuring. To what degree does indoctrination from the group change followers' beliefs about themselves and their relationships with other people, their moral values, or their cosmological worldview? Would you say that what you believe about yourself and your relationship with other people has changed a lot since you joined the group? What about your morality and your beliefs that is right and wrong? Do you view the world differently, and have your beliefs about God changed? So again, scale of 1 to 10, there's many factors of this. And this is why there's 10 factors and each of them are judged, because that could be a 10, but everything else is a 0. Probably not a cult. You know, that's why there's all these different bases that you need to touch. It's if someone gets a 10 on one, it's not necessarily a cult. Okay. Factor 10, our final factor. Nexus of motivation. To what degree do followers' goals and dreams shift from a personal focus to a spiritual focus, so that the personal focuses and goals are postponed or abandoned altogether in favor of spiritual aspirations or a group mission? Would you say that your spiritual aspirations and your desire to follow your teacher or to advance your group's mission has become very important to you now? Do you still pursue your personal goals and dreams that you had before you joined this group? Okay. Now, if you were to do this, you can look it up yourself, the Boyd scale, and go through those 10 factors, rate them each from 0 to 10 if you feel like you might be involved in a cult. If you score 60 and above, we're getting into cult territory. 60 and above is cult territory. They say if you rank 50, that means you're bordering to what I would call baby cult. I mean, I would say maybe even, I don't know. I'm not Boyd. I didn't create the scale. Let's stick to what Boyd said. 50 points is baby cult, okay? 50 points is like you get a little closer, you might be in that inner circle, you might start to see more, and it might go up, okay? Okay, so now the BITE model. The BITE model was created by Stephen Hassan, and it means behavioral, information, thought, and emotional control. And he takes these 4 factors, and there's a lot. There's 22 under behavior. Some of these things will control what you do with your sex life, control how you dress, how your hairstyles, what you're allowed to eat, deprivation of sleep, financial exploitation. These are a lot of the things that we see with FLDS and stuff like that. The behavioral one is like something like the FLDS. They get like 10 out of 10 with these. Like it's all of them. Like it's so many. The physical reality, the way that they can look, the way they can act, the way they can talk, the way they can dress, who they're allowed to do what with. FLDS was really crazy because these people were not allowed to have sex, even with their own partners and stuff. But then having these 14-year-old girls with the leader who was like a disgusting, decrepit 80-year-old man. That one's traumatizing. That one, I was screaming at the screen when I was watching it. I was like, come on. And in that one, everyone's really mad at the leader, but not mad at their own fathers. The fathers who allowed them at 14 years old to go and be with this man. That's why at the end of that, I was like, these people love their parents too much. I swear. Like my dad did way less than that. And it was a lot to forgive. But anyway, moving on. Information control. This is important because this is the ones that we kind of more so get into in the spiritual spaces that we are. Could be deception, from deliberately withholding information, distorting information, minimize or discourage access to non-cult sources of information. Again, this is like something Scientology does, that they're not allowed to like really look at other things on the internet or TV or articles and stuff. Limiting people's access to critical information, limiting their access to former members, keeping members so busy that they don't have time to do any outside research, controlling their cell phones, texting, stuff like that. This is when you're deep, deep in, you know? That's why I like to go over all the other stuff first, because this BITE model is pretty intense. Like you're already in the thick of it. But these other ones that I did before, the tendencies of the leader and the tactics of the leader, that's more on that outer level that you should be able to maybe look at that, and it could help you see those things so that you don't end up full blown in this. Compartmentalization of information for insider and outsider doctrines. So when you're on the inside of the group, you get a certain information, and then the outsiders get different information about the group. We see this all the time, especially with Scientology. They're like, we don't believe in alien souls. And then you get to the high levels of Scientology, and it's literally about the alien souls, which is, once again, I believe in the alien souls. Should I tell you guys what Scientology actually believes, to my understanding? Since we're here, we'll talk about it. So basically, they believe, and this is why it gets crazy, because other things believe this, but it depends. Are you getting this information from a source that wants nothing from you and gives you the sources yourself and is like, hey, read the book yourself, and then that's it? Present the information, take it or leave it, believe it or don't. If it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, don't take it. Or do they make you go through 10 layers of a cult, deeper and deeper and deeper, emotional blackmail and all this stuff to get this information? That's why I'm saying this from the spiritual side. A lot of this information comes up in other places. So in Scientology, they talk about Xenu, this alien overlord, who basically was like a member of the Galactic Federation. Now, we don't know if this is the same Galactic Federation we talk about or some other confederation. That's not very clear because I didn't get to this. I'm not a Scientologist, so therefore I've never reached those higher levels to know the differences. And I don't even think the members probably know the difference because they're indoctrinated into a cult. So they believe that this Xenu was like a high-ranking member of the Galactic Federation. He started to become corrupt, and then he wanted to, there was an overpopulation problem in space on multiple planets. And this federation was looking over many planets, and there was a population problem. There was too many people there. So basically, Xenu, the alien overlord, called all of these souls, these people, these aliens, in and did them tax audits because he really hated the IRS. So rightfully so. But basically, in this story, meaning L. Ron Hubbard really hated the IRS. And he brings this people in for tax audits, but then freezes them, takes their souls with technology, brings billions or whatever of these souls to stop the population problem, takes these souls, brings them to Earth, drops them in a volcano on Earth, and now all these souls thought that they were going to be going into a tax audit, and then they thought that they were going to be brought, I guess, to this other planet. He kills them all on Earth. Their souls leave the body because they were frozen. Now they're dead. So their souls are leaving the body. And then Xenu, this alien overlord, had created a technology which was like a net around the planet that captures the souls, takes the souls to another place, indoctrinates them into the false world history. This false world history teaches them about false religions, which they say that is Christianity and these other religions, about this whole fake world history that never happened, indoctrinates all of these alien souls with this false information. And then now the souls live all around in the spaces around us everywhere, and they attach onto humans. And then this is why you audit to go clear, because they say that all of your trauma and all of your issues mentally is actually from these alien souls possessing your body. So that's why you go clear. You do the EMDR style of auditing stuff to make yourself reach this level. And this is why you have to keep auditing and auditing and auditing, because then all of these other aliens are attached to you. And then when you reach the higher levels and you've already gotten all these aliens off of you, you now have to do it for the collective. So putting that out there, because there is a lot of crossover, a lot of overlap to a lot of the spiritual community. We all talk about Galactic Federation. We do believe that there is different things going on with souls. There you go. That's what Scientology believes. Okay. But that's like, you have to spend like $500,000 and dedicate your life for all of these years to get that information that I just gave you now for free here on YouTube. Okay. Encouraging people to spy on other members, unethical use of confessions. like what happened in Nexium, where they used collateral. So they basically would get people to tell their deepest, darkest secrets and then use that as a way they can't leave. Same thing that happens in Scientology with the auditing. You're doing this stuff to heal your trauma, but they're keeping track of all your trauma. And now later on, when you try to leave, they're going to say, oh, don't you remember, Tom Cruise? You did something really gay that night. Do you want the whole world to know that you did something gay? If you leave, we'll tell them. And this is like what's happened with Scientology, you know? So this is like unethical use of confession, the blackmailing, and the collateral that is used in many of these cults that have been exposed. Okay, thought control, requiring members to internalize the group's doctrine as truth, instilling black and white thinking, changing a person's name and identity. We've seen that with some of the yoga cults. Now, yoga is good, but there is some yoga cults. There is some people who used yoga and tantra and things to manipulate people, and they do rename them sometimes. Now, there's also good things that happen, and sometimes people are named, again, in a positive environment. That's not a cult, okay? Use of loaded language and cliché. Use of loaded language and cliches, which constrict knowledge, stop critical thoughts, and reduce complexities into buzzwords. They love buzzwords. Okay. Only encouraging good and proper thoughts. Hypnotic techniques that are used to alter mental states and undermine critical thinking.